So good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I am Brian. I am joined with Melissa. Thought let's get started on this is Revit Radio. So all this is you guys ask questions and we attempt to answer them. Oh, can't see the layout, seeing two Brians. What? See, I was playing with the layout earlier. So for those of you watching this recording, just fast forward for a little bit. There's a new button in here called layout. Was it before I did? Oh, it was before I started it though. Did I screw it up
Oh
and
yeah,
didn't
because
look at the layout at all?
now we're seeing your screen and you about the same size, but then
Well,
you're also at the top.
I'm also the top. Dang it. Okay, hold on. I just might need to find this. There was a button called layout. I'm like, what does this do? And I obviously screwed it all up. That's my view. Attendees standard. Is that better? Is that better, everyone?
Still seeing
Still
big you
think
and
two?
little you.
Yeah. Side by side speaker, side by side. How about this one?
Maybe you have to stop sharing and reshare,
Oh, that's a good thought.
possibly.
I don't know. It's not even
Have
under
you tried
there.
turning it off and on again?
Advanced sharing options. No, that's not what it was. Okay, I'll stop sharing. I'm just gonna stop this damn recording and go get to. No, I'll just edit it out. I probably won't edit it out. Let's be serious. No, I want to stop share, not continue to share.
Oh, yep, nope, that's weird. It did keep you. Okay.
We stop
Okay,
share.
now it's just you.
Well, I don't have the layout anymore. The layout button went away when I started the broadcast. Videos. You see you and your screen in two different screens. Well, that's what I get for clicking a button. No, this is all virtual and video filters. This is not the button I need. So today on Revit Radio, we're going to learn how to not jack up.
How did it not piss off the Zoom gods?
Yeah,
Well, it seems to have taken over my mouse, so I can't actually do anything on my computer anyway, so
you got that going on again.
yeah. Zoom does not like letting me do anything else.
Maybe I need to right click while pressing RTU on the laptop and hop on one foot. Yeah. Okay. I tried something different. I'll try sharing again and see if this does absolutely anything. It didn't ask me
So
which screen
funny.
to share. Same. I got went over here. Okay, sometimes. And now I don't even have the change the way it looks scenario. Oh, found it. Sorry, the button moved. Content only. Is this better?
Ooh. Oh, there you go. Yep.
Okay, so for those of you paying attention to ever get into your own Zoom webinar, do not ever hit the layout button. Well, I could do this
Do
one too.
not
This one
push
was
this button.
fun. Now that I found the button, I could just be a floating head here or this one. Cool. I guess it's that one we wanted. Okay, so if you do find that button, switch it back to content only once you figure out what's going on. So there we go. Sorry about that, everyone. So with Revit Radio, this is a show all about you asking questions or heckling me in the chat if you need to, because I'm jacking with settings I have no reason I should have been jacking with. So I'm Brian. This is Melissa. If you guys do have questions for the few new names I see on here, please put them in the question and answer pod. Because if you're following the chat, you can see I get heckled a lot when I do stupid things, which is quite often. So please put the questions in the question and answer pod. We can
Yeah, that's the
keep
new
track of
people are
those.
quickly learning we are not very serious.
If you are not quickly learning by this recording, and I want to go back and edit it and
Super
say,
serious
please
about
fast
this.
forward 6 minutes, but that's okay. So as usual, while we're waiting for questions, I always like to bring up a couple things. One of the things I did want to bring up, in case you all are paying attention, I am under the manage.autodesk.com. I did go to updates, and there was released, yes, today, an update for 25. So if you're using Revit 25, there's a 0.4.3 update. There was also an update earlier for those auto people who still have to use AutoCAD. So there was an AutoCAD update in the middle. So since last Revit Radio, all the AutoCAD-based platforms have been updated, as well as the Revit 23 had an update the day after the last Revit Radio. So have those going through. So if you guys always keep track, just like to let people know, because I know most people, A, don't have the rights to go check out what's there or just forget to. So wanted to bring that out. So topic I was thinking about bringing up today and getting into was key plans. I might have covered this before in Revit Radio. I can't remember, but I had to do it this week. So I always get asked, and I quite often get asked, how do you do key plans? Do you set up views within a project? What do you actually set up and do? And I believe one of the ways you guys do it at Parallax, Melissa, is similar to the way I do it here. But for me, I open the title block, and in my title block family, I have a nested generic annotation family. So I don't care how accurate this is. I get some clients like, no, 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 that is not an accurate depiction. This particular project is an airport. That doesn't show the planes and the terminals and all that stuff. If you want that, this might not be the way to go for you. But for me, I nest in a generic annotation family. Now, I have this set up in my template as well. So in my template, when I start a project, I have a generic annotation family within that project, and it's called the key plan, right? And then within this key plan, what I actually have going on is I just draw some very basic shapes to match the building. I create an object style for all of those shapes that match the building, and it's called like the building outline. Usually because most of my clients are very concerned about having different line weights on everything. If you don't care because it's a key plan, you can not worry about that. But once I draw the building outline, I take all of those lines and put a visibility parameter to the building footprint, right? I do the same thing for the match lines. I draw a match line. I go through and put a visibility parameter for all of the match lines. Then what I go through and do is put filled regions, which I will have one over here. I do a filled region, and then each filled region does get a property, a visibility property for each one of those areas, right? So if I come down here and turn off my preview visibility, you're going to see I've got filled regions in every single one of these. The one that this has that I've never done before, this particular client asked for it, they actually have one piece of text and then another piece of text in bold right there. And the reason for it is when they turn on the match lines, and I'm going to come down here and do it, when they turn on the preview visibility, they want the word of the key plan area to be in bold and the other ones not to be in bold. So that's what this particular client did. So I have the one piece of text, and then I have the other piece of text right over the top of it that's in bold. So if I go into my family types, you can see I got the visibility for each one of the areas. And then down here, I had another one that was going to be just to turn off the bold text, right? So this turns off only the filled region, but then when this is turned off and the match lines are turned off, the bold text goes away as well. So that's kind of how I set this one up. So the text would toggle on and off when we went through. Then, of course, inside of here, I create a type for each one of those key plans, right? So this one's called Area 1 Northeast. If I hit the apply, we'll see that that one goes away, and wherever it is, we'll do 61 Northeast. Hit apply, you'll see that that one will now turn on, right? So I create all those types. I also create a type called key plan overall, where all of them are just turned off, all the filled regions. And I see the word key plan, and then I also see all of the little pieces of text. The last one that I create, and this is kind of where it's in there, I call one no key plan. So I hit the apply button, all the things are toggled off. And this is the reason why I do building footprint and match lines on a line, is I like a type called no key plan. The reason for that is then when I get into my title blocks, I don't control this via the title block, right? If I go into my title block family, you're not going to see those 500 different toggles to map those toggles going through here. What you're going to see is a family type parameter, right? So I selected the the generic annotation symbol after I located it. I came up here and said, I want to go add a parameter, and I created what Revit determines as a family type parameter for that nested type family. The big thing is back here in the original family, I have set it shared. And this is the reason why I like doing this. So with this being shared, when I load this into the project, I'm going to go create a new project, because opening the one that's there is probably going to be way too long. But when I load this title block into that project, it's going to also load this key plan family. So if I just say, cool, I'm going to go load this into my blank project, right? I'm going to put the title block in here. I'm going to have this beautiful new title block. If I go create a new sheet, I now have the title block that we wanted to be using here. We'll just say the no guides, right? And now the title block, I can choose which key plan do I want to be seeing, right? Which one am I looking for? So it's not going through and toggling and having all these toggles and having 500 different title blocks, one for each key plan. It's just literally having a nested generic annotation family for this particular thing. Where it's really, really nice on this particular project is there's 5 different buildings we're doing for this project. There's like an area over here. There's a whole new building way over here in the actual job site. So what's nice about this is in our families, under our generic annotations, you're going to see that there's just going to be down here. It's just going to be, what do I call this? Usually, I usually call it sim. I don't remember what I called it in this project. They had a requirement. I was going to start with an S, but maybe not. Maybe it starts with a T, because I called. We just tab selected to figure it out. AUS key plan. Oh, that's right. It's for the actual airport, right? So this is here. So that family is there. So for other reason, I need to hear, oh, gee, I need to have come in here and we're doing one view and it's going to have 41 and 41 Northeast and Southeast. I needed a new type. I don't have to edit the title block. I don't have to go through there and do anything. All I have to do is under the key plan, duplicate this, and I'm going to call this one my test, right? And then in that test key plan, I can just toggle on the 2, 3 multiple areas I wanted to see. Now the title block, I didn't have to edit this in any way, shape, or form. I now have my new test key plan, right? So if those toggles are in there, or in this particular building's case, the other project that's using a different key plan because it's a different building, all they have to do is come up here and go right click reload. And on the reload, they browse to their key plan and it's going to be a part of it, right? So if I come down here to mine, I'm going to go to I'm going to go into my annotations, not my adaptive components. And I'm going to go into title blocks. I probably have a TB key plan in here. Nope, it's probably under symbols. It'd be nice if I actually knew my own content naming, right? So here is my key plan, right? So this is my key plan. So for the other building, all I have to do is reload it. And now there's my key plan. Obviously, it had a different insertion point. You would make sure it's the same. But now when I grab this title block family, I have my key plans that I had inside of here. So I can go grab the area D, the area A, the area B. All right, so this is what's really cool. And again, when you do your project and you save your new project out, you can go create a key plan for that particular project. You never have to edit the title block. All you have to do is go reload that family to be the new one. And hopefully they have the same insertion point, unlike these two. Okay, I think I need to do not disturb it. Okay.
You need to hide your teams.
Just do not disturb it. Because even though it says I'm, in a meeting and it shouldn't be showing that stuff, Teams doesn't understand. So if you guys didn't know that, if you right click on Teams, you can say do not disturb. I actually moved both of these to the top because those are the two I use most often. You can pin those. So see, not only are we teaching you how to screw up Zoom, we're teaching you how to make Teams not.
How to unscrew up Teams. Perfect. Well, back to your key plan, we have two questions. So the first one, well, I guess technically the second one, is just a confirmation, making sure that you were talking about sharing the family.
And what does it say?
So it says, confirming I heard correctly, you have to have the shared box checked for a nested family.
No, you don't have to have shared checked for all of those different scenarios. The only reason you have to have shared checked is if you want that to get loaded into the project, and then you can manipulate the one in the project without having to edit the title block. If this wasn't checked as shared and I loaded it into the title block, if I wanted that new 4140E, I would have to edit the title block. I would have to then grab this key plan. I would have to, in here, duplicate this, then create, rename this. And I have to do this within the title block family. Once a nested family is shared, that means two things will happen. One, you can edit the family without having to go to the original nest, like I did here to create the new type. Or B, you can also tab select it. Even though that's part of the title block, I can tab select this. I can see the properties of this. I just can't really, move it, do anything independent. If it's also a regular type family, I could choose to tag that independently or schedule that independently. So if I really wanted to go do a generic annotation, what are those called? Note blocks, I think they're called in Revit. If I did a note block schedule, then I could actually see I have a key plan schedule, right? So I have this key plan family loaded inside of here. So that's what the shared checkbox gives you. It gives you the capability for scheduling, for tagging, and for manipulating it prior to go without having to go into the nest. So that's what the little shared checkbox gives you. So hopefully that answers that question. And I saw Simon had the comment of he uses area plans to generate his key plans. And that's fine. If you wanted to use a real view, you absolutely can. The only downside is if I need to put that key plan on 300 sheets, then I'm duplicating with dependent that view to put it on multiple sheets. I use this on almost all of my projects, but a lot of my projects, if people are like, cool, this is the same area, but I've got level 1 through 10. So that'd be duplicating it 10 times. Oh, I'm also got to deal this on the reflected ceiling plan. So there's another 10 things. Oh, I also have finished plans and blah, blah, blah. So if you start doing this, I had one client do that. I literally got underneath the view they were doing, and there was like 350 dependent views of that one floor plan because they needed to drag it and drop it and put it on each sheet. Also, prior to Revit 26, there's no, without having an add-in utility, there's no way to say you're actually getting that into the right location without building something into that view like a reference plane so you could move it based upon that reference plane. So not saying the way I said to do it was the perfect way. I like the simplicity, and I'm going to undo this because it's driving me crazy. That's not in the right location. I just like the simplicity of doing it this way. I also think too many people think the key plans need to be massively like that. No one is looking at this billionth scale view of your building to get data from it. This is just representing people, hey, we're roughly in the vicinity of this area. So I know some clients are like, no, 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 no. I want to see the doors, the great. You want to see all of that stuff. This is not the way to do it. Because again, if I go back to that family, you're in a generic annotation family, right? And the length of this line is 1/8 of an inch. I'm getting into problems where I might be less than a 32nd of an inch on certain portions of this building. I might just left those parts out. Like this might have had some sort of angle in here. Don't care. If that line needs to be less than the 32nd, it's just, again, this is a key plan. It's not, I mean, I think of the old hand drafting days where people drew a rectangle, called it the building, and then shaded over that rectangle. It didn't ever mimic anything to do with the building. So, like I said, if you want to do that, absolutely. But Simon, again, just depending on the size of projects you're in, you might be duplicating that area plan 10 times, not a big deal. Over 300, I think I'd rather come up with a different way. And I've also had clients who are like, oh, well, we like to do them as legends. So they go back in and do it as a legend. And I'm kind of like, well, legend is very similar to generic annotation. It's a scalable object anyway. So if you're going to spend all that work in a legend, and then you've got to toggle visibilities on and off, so you've got to have a legend for each one of the different areas. I don't know. To me, a little generic annotation family in my mind is more easily controllable because with a legend, you can't add parameters to the filled region, so you have a different legend for each one of those. I don't know. That's what I got. You guys do something similar, correct, Melissa? Or have you changed your game
Yeah.
since a couple years ago?
No, we have a generic annotation nested into the title block, and then because we used to have a John, we have we have an app, so you can basically just hit go, and it goes through and reads the name of the sheet, finds the building and the area, and then makes sure that the key plan is set to the correct one.
Yeah,
And I
I
know
have
we used
the
to do it
client
with
who's using
Dynamo
this one does
before.
the same thing. So the sheet name will say area 52 or whatever,
Yeah.
51 Northeast, and then it automatically says, hey, take the name of the sheet and match this property for that title block to that area 51 Northeast or whatever it is. So yes, they have a Dynamo script that will go through and do that as well. I don't think anybody in the office knows they have that script, so I'm sure everybody's manually doing it, but they
That's
actually.
fair.
And we
Yeah,
still
that's
only have
definitely
one
fun.
question. We have a follow-up comment to this. but then we only have one question. So I want to make sure you guys are still typing some questions in there as we answer the follow-up.
Yes. So the follow-up is about filled regions. Says, I know they made some changes with the filled regions in families in 25, maybe. We had the issue before with Keyplans that the lines didn't go over the filled regions, so the area boundary line. So their solution was to offset the filled region from that line so that you could see the line. Is that resolved for this particular case of lines and filled regions? Oh, it says looks like maybe it is from what you're doing.
Um, Yes and no. It always has been a display order issue, and this drives me crazy in generic annotation families that it's a display order. And I forget what it is, and it's really stupid because generic annotation families are different than detail components, and we don't get the
Yeah,
display order bring to front, move to back that we get with detail components in a 3D family. Oftentimes I'll go through and do this and load it into a project and I'm like, oh great, this halftone line, or that's it's just turned off right now, but this line is over the top of that line. So I'm going to go through and oops, preview this video. I'm going to go through and then display it the wrong. I have overall, let's go change this to be one of the sectors, right? And so like I've had clients come in and be like, oh yeah, so then technically if I changed, the object style for match lines, it might be bouncing around. And it's really, really, really stupid because if I came in here and I'm just gonna make this gray. If I came in here and did this, and I've had this happen before, well, now the gray line is on top of the black line. So now you get like this black dash line here. Oftentimes that's how it displays in the family. You load it into project, it doesn't display that way.
Mhm.
And you're like, what the heck? So you take those lines and literally I just do select all instances in this view. I cut them to the clipboard. I then do paste same
Paste the
place.
line.
It remembers the visibility and everything else that was associated to those. Then I load that back into projects like, nope, that's what the problem was. So then I select all instances of the filled regions, cut to the clipboard, paste. So it's playing with that display order because in the Revit world, it's whatever was drawn either first or last, not sure because it's different for different family types. And I start going through and doing that. So yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you, Michael. So I knew I talked about this before. Michael actually just said in the chat that I have a whole paper on this. I'll have to see if I can go find that paper about display order in the families because it drove me flipping crazy. And it's funny because I swear over the years it's even changed sometimes. It's like I swear to God I knew this, and then it doesn't. So I don't even claim to know. I claim to say I know. I just know there is an issue. So yeah, that happens. It'll be the same thing like this text was the masking region. I've had the same thing where why the heck isn't this masking region? I can see the text through the filled region, but not and it's like, oh my God. So again, it's a lot of select all instances, copy or cut, paste. Nope. And you got to play cutting and pasting these things to get the right display order. And in this simple family where there's no constraints, it works well. If there were things that had constraints, you've obviously got to reconstrain those, and that's where it becomes massive pain. But no, I don't know, Caitlin, if anything has changed in these versions, or I just keep getting lucky, or I just keep getting lazy and be like, screw it, I'm going to make them all the same line weight, then I don't have to worry about it. Very well could be that too. And I know I think there's still an issue, as you had said, that like if I grab the filled region, if I grab that filled region, if these were invisible lines, absolutely I have the problem with the invisible lines almost always covering over the top of them.
Right.
Doesn't look like it's working right now, but let's just go throw this into the title block and see. And let me change this to be one of the areas. So it doesn't look like the invisible is going over the top. So yeah. Caitlin, you can ask any question you want. We will answer any question you want to ask. Doesn't have to be about the topic I'm talking about. I'm just doing this to buy time while you guys ask the questions. Yeah, and Michael saying, yeah, this did change a while back because I had families that were working, and all of a sudden during one upgrade they started changing. It's like, oh, so well,
Yeah.
that's what my topic was. It looks like everybody's I don't think anything else on there.
Okay.
All right, close some things down before I break them. Boy, Melissa's looking for the next question.
Well, maybe we should go with Caitlin's, since it's still family. So she's asking if there is some sort of secret with reference planes and dimensioning that would be good for a novice to know about.
Oh,
I
it's
think that's a
funny she
lovely
says this
question.
because I'm actually going to discuss this at Autodesk University, and I was just literally getting into this with one of the papers I have. Um, in particular, for most families, there probably isn't that big of a deal. But as you start getting into more and more and more complex families, it absolutely does matter. I have always had a type A personality, and I've always done a lot of things a specific way just because my brain tells me it should be done that way for no other reason than that it makes me happy. But what I have found over the years that my particular type A personality has made my families very stable. So one of the things that I start talking about when we get into this is if I were to come in here and just be like, cool, I'm going to start drawing some reference planes, right? So I'm going to draw a reference plane over here. I'm going to draw a reference plane over here. And then we're going to be sitting here thinking about how this is being controlled, right? So this is my insertion point. So I'm going to say, cool, I'm going to keep this as my insertion point. So for me, when I go to start dimensioning and drawing these reference planes, are these dimensions for the parameters. What I start to do first is I'm going to come up here like, cool, I want to do an aligned dimension. And I know I want this to be centered. Since this is the controlling reference plane, I will click on that first, right? I'm going to do an equal dimension. It's then going to start moving these dimensions. And I know out of habit, I always draw the right one first. So I dimension to the right one first. Does that matter? I don't think so. It's just what my brain has done. But since I dimensioned that right one first, and I'm now going to want to come over and do like an overall dimension, I'll actually click the right dimension plane to the left. I don't ever go inverse. If I would have clicked the left one first and then the right one, then when I did this dimension, I would go from left to right. Probably doesn't matter, but as I gotten into advanced families that break, I've literally just deleted all the dimensions, put them in a way that made sense to me, and the family starts working again, right? Then if we were doing like another reference plane inside of this reference plane that was going to be controlling something, I again don't click on this reference plane first to this one because the length parameter is going to be moving this one, and then this one wants to go along for the ride. So again, thinking kind of in that same display order scenario we were talking about with the graphics, there's also a creation order, right? So for me, then I would do this one and come up and say, cool, now I'm going to have a parameter here. Because if this moves, I want this to control that. And that's kind of the big thing for me that I want to go through and start working at. If you actually email me after this Revit Radio or anybody watching the recording, I will send you one of my papers from previous families. I've taught a session called Revit's Family Stability that goes through a lot of these content and these topics of, man, yes, the way you do things can matter. Everything in Revit's got a positive and a negative face. There's a display order. There's just an order of things in Revit that I have just done over the years, and I have fewer families break than most people. And I've actually taken families from my clients like, this just is broken. I'm like, this should not be breaking. It all makes sense. Like I said, delete dimensions, re-put them down, re-put the exact same parameters down, and the family starts working. So that's kind of the big thing for me when you are talking about the secrets of reference planes and dimensions, etc. Kind of getting into those things when you get into there. Yeah, and then as Rick said, dimension everything to a reference plane, never to an extrusion or anything else.
Okay.
I probably actually still have that one pulled up, Michael. Michael's like, oh, one of the best sessions ever. Like you can see, I even pulled this up to talk about. But that when I start talking about it was my family stability class. When I start talking about a lot of this too, is see if I actually pulled it into my new. Yeah, probably didn't. RTC. Yeah, I'm not gonna freaking find it there. Let me just go search this under here. Mackie conferences stability. Da, 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 da. This one. I've just got to get out of the style on first, or I can drag and drop. That's not the one I want. I want the one with the wall in it. Where is it? That one.
You've lost your family.
No, just got to figure out which one it is. I call them all the same thing. This is probably for the lab. So this is one thing that I always love to talk about. So this was just very simple cubes I created. There's no parameters to it. There's no nothing. But when I created these cubes, I drew all the sketch lines within the cubes given direction. And what I love about this is what you'll start to see is if I start to place this space-based object on here, how it's rotating just because, honest truth, of the directionality I drew the sketch lines. I investigated this because I created a countertop family and I kept putting my face-based sink faucets, my sinks, everything on it. And I kept having to place them and have to hit the space bar twice to get them the other direction. I created another family. It's like, man, I have to constantly hit the space bar one time to change the direction of this. So I spent more time than I should have to figure this out. That I'm like, oh, if I literally go to the floor plan of this family, when I started drawing my sketch lines, I did a rectangle and I went from the top right corner to the bottom left, top left to the bottom right. I drew sketch lines all left and all up, all right, all up, just to figure out, okay, in an all clockwise direction and all counterclockwise direction, etc. And I did that to kind of start seeing, great, what's actually going on when you put this into in a family, and that's in a project. That's what I found out. So it's hilarious that the vertical faces from the work plane you're set to doesn't care. All my clocks are pointing the right direction. When you put those clocks on the parallel face, they all start rotating depending on the direction the sketch lines were moving. Yeah, so if you email me, I will send you my family stability class from one of the multitude of conferences I spoke at it. And you can kind of see that I'm a crazy person who likes to spend way too much time on this.
That's why we love you, Brian.
Well, the other one I had is I had a TV family and I kept putting an image in the TV and the image was always coming up mirrored. And it was simply because I found out that in the family, when I created the family, the extrusion end had a negative value. So I like did it on the work plane. And when I did that and I put the image on here, it was mirroring the image because this is the negative side of the family, not the positive side. That's literally all it was. And I'm like, okay, I changed my work plane and realigned it. And all of a sudden my images and all my TVs went right. I kept having to go into like Photoshop and mirror the image to bring it in so it would appear properly. I'm like, this is stupid. It's working fine on this family, not that one. So again, those little things like that irritate me. I just have to figure out. My brain needs to know the why. So yes, that's me crazy. Yeah, email me that. Email me, and we'll get you the we'll get you that content so you can look at it. All right. What other questions we got?
Let's see. Look at Rick is asking, since you mentioned note blocks, which basically schedule generic annotations, I believe note blocks are used more regularly by engineers and keynotes are used more by architects. Is that a fair assessment?
So what Rick is talking about is if I'm in a project, let me get out of this. No, I don't want to save that. So within a project, if you have a generic annotation family loaded, you can actually, that's not what I thought I was. Oh, because I switched versions. We're back to 25. So if you are in a project and you have generic annotations families loaded into the project, you can go up to your views, you can come down here to schedules, and you can create what's called a note block. Now, a note block, again, told you I'm going to see my key plans there. A note block is going to grab any generic annotation family and allow you to schedule that annotation family. It will also allow you, and this is the part that blows me away about Revit, allow you to schedule any of the parameters, even if they're not a I was going to say shared parameter. So even if they're not a shared parameter. So I should not be able to schedule any of this stuff in any normal family except generic annotations. So if I really wanted to be like, cool, I want to grab all of these inside of here, let me move it over. I also wanted to grab the type, which is going to be the name. I probably should have moved that first. By the way, if you guys don't hit up 30,000 times, select everything else and hit down once. Right, so now if I say okay to this, it's going to start showing you all of those parameters that I've got inside of there and which families I'm using, right? So if I come down here to my sheet and I duplicate a sheet, cool, just duplicate the sheet. And if I grab this one and change the key plan to be something else, right, it's going to pull that up now in my note block. So that's what a generic annotation note block or schedule is going to do. So one thing about that is that's a generic annotation family. So Michael's asking, I think it was Michael who asked that. No, Rick asked that. Do you think architects use this more than engineers? I don't think there is a more or less. Most of my architects use actually note blocks where they, in my opinion, should be using the Revit keynoting. Um, I personally don't use them for like keyed notations. I still use keynotes because once I start doing that, now I might re-change my thought. But in the old days, I only ever used keynoting because I could check the filter for filter per sheet, and I would only schedule the ones that were visible on that sheet. So I might have note 1, 6, 12, and 42. Those are the only ones being displayed on the sheet. So I personally always loved Revit keynoting to do my keyed notations. I'm air quoting all of this because keynotes and notations get confusing.
Yes, keynotes
Um,
versus keynotes.
right, keynotes versus I call them keyed notations. That way it's a different terminology rather than keynotes. So that's how I did it. So most of my clients have switched over to using the Revit key noting tools as their keyed notations, because the other thing is they're type properties, it's going to stay there, but we could filter it. 3 years ago, when they added in the filter by sheet for any schedule, right? So I can come to this schedule, I can go to the sorting and grouping, and I can say, oh, so you can't for a note block. Oh, so never mind. I'm not going to use note blocks for this. So I don't have to rethink it because we don't have filter per sheet for note blocks. I like it for that reason because then I can go notes 1 through 50. A lot of my architects in their keynoting tool, they say, great, 100 notes are floor plans, 200 notes are RCPs or whatever they're doing. And then even though they might actually be using true keynoting with like CSI numbers, they just then have the 100s, 200s, 300s, etc. for their keyed notations. So in their keynote file, it's got all the 1s, 2s, 300s, and then it goes down into their CSI divisioning as well. So that's how I prefer to do it, only because the filter items per sheet. That's me.
Oh, there you go. We're getting comments that it's in the filter tab.
Oh, yeah, it's in the filter tab. Sorry. Thank you, Michael, or whoever said that. Yeah, so I might have to rethink this. Damn it. I might have to rethink this because of the filter by sheet. So I don't know. I never did it because I liked this for that reason. I also personally like the keynoting version better because if you don't have an add-in utility, you can't spell check it because you can't spell check properties to families. And I see tons of misspellings in these things. So without an add-in utility, you've got to like export the schedule to Excel, spell check it in Excel, see what's wrong, go edit the family, and fix it. So for me, without an add-in utility, for my clients who have no add-in utilities, I still might be doing the keynoting because that's a TXT file I can actually do spell check on. So yeah, Michael's like, yeah, we just switched back to note blocks because of that. So it's 6 one doesn't have half the other, Rick. I can't say that one uses it more than the other. Honest truth, I find engineers use almost nothing because they just like to type things out in novels over and over. Yeah, and that's the other thing Sarah said. With keynotes, you can actually assign it to an object. Honest truth though, when I'm doing like keyed notations using keynoting, it's usually going to be something just based off of user defined. Because oftentimes, like in an elevation, I want to know, oh, exterior finish to remain, blah blah blah, and it's a novel, and I don't want to associate that keynote to this wall. It's just a note I'm calling out. But yes, keynotes do have the advantage of when I go to place a keynote, rotate, keynote. I have the element, which is going to pull out the element keynote, the user defined keynote, which will just let me pick anything from the list, or I can keynote a material. Yeah, and yeah, aka sheet notes. That's where the user defined starts coming in. And again, there's a couple add-in utilities, which is really cool because it'll actually tell you how many user defines you have. I use Revolution Design's Keynote Manager. It's a great tool to show you if it's being used, how many are in there. I believe VisiSpec has something similar too. So there's a lot of add-in utilities that will actually let you know how many user-defined keynoting do we have. So it's kind of fun. So long-winded question, long-winded answer to your question, Rick. So what
Yeah,
else?
and I think we have a combo
Yeah.
because usually we'll use Keynotes, the Keynote tool for most of the noting, but then I think a lot of it is like demo plans where it's like remove this or reuse this, and they just want it to say 1, 2, 3. We'll
Yeah.
use note blocks for that.
Like I said, some clients it's all over the place. So Brooke's original question said who uses it more. It's just everywhere.
Depends on the day.
I haven't seen too many MEP people use either. But then again, I'm not diving into MEP models that often. So what's our next
Uh,
question?
okay, so that was done. Oh, yes, Michael was pointing out the disadvantages of using keynotes. If a floor changes extents, the tag, the keynote will run off. Although if you pin it now, it wouldn't move, would it?
No, that's I was just gonna say that. So I think this is something that not everybody knows, and I do this quite often. I'm gonna open my little detail file. Um, One thing about any tag in Revit, and this would be true for Keynote tags, I'm going to show you this with a detail tag. One of the biggest things with tags in Revit that I've always hated is you're like, oh, cool. So I've got this all lined up, right? And I decide that, oh, great, I don't want these two pieces of rebar here. I want them over here. Graphically, I just want to move them over. What you're seeing happen is both of those tags are moving, right? But if you
Mhm.
take your tags, now I just nudge like 30 times. Let me go and nudge all my
I know, it's
nudges.
bad,
If
bad
you take
Brian.
these tags and you pin them, now if you take that element and move it, the tag stays. This is true of any tag. So material tags, any of those tags, yes, if you like a floor tag or a ceiling tag or something that's a large object, you can pin that tag where you want it to be. And then if that element starts to change, it will stay where it is, just the leader starts to adjust. Same thing if it wasn't a free end like this. Where's the property for free end? Here it is. I thought it was up here. Wow. I moved it just down into here. So if I come down here and said, no, 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 that's going to be an attached end and it's unpinned, again, same thing. If this wall starts to move, then that tag moves as well. But if I pin it first, then it does not move. So it does it regardless if it's free end or attached end. If you pin the tags, they will stay.
And when that was only a few releases ago, right? That they added pinning.
Oh, it was quite a few releases ago because it changed the
Uh,
way I do all my details. Because I've always loved this. For you ever known, I've been teaching intelligent detailing for years, like over a decade. I'd be like, oh, cool. I'm gonna go switch this to a 2x4. Look how great all my stuff is. This updates. Oh, but I'm gonna go ahead and then just move that over and this over. So I've got to move it. I'm like, yeah, so this might have to happen, whatever. And then that note's no longer lined up. People are like, yeah, but now my notes look like shit. I'm like, yeah, sorry, got to move it. When they added this, it was like total game changer. Pin all those tags and they'll stay lined up.
yeah.
Of course, if you're in Revit 26, you can now in Revit 26, I don't think it was in 25, was it? Filter, I only want the tags. No, so in 25, you can actually say, no, 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 those are all screwed up. I probably have to go and pin them first. I wanted those all to be right justified based off of whatever. I don't know what it justified off of, probably the extent of the tag or something. But yeah, you do have the alignments now in Revit 25.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna go just pull one over and see if I can actually get them all to line up the left or if they're just really, really screwed. Filter. Say let's go left justify these. Yeah. So that is nice. They added that. I think it was 25. Could have been 24.1.
I'm in 24.2. I suppose I could look at
Oh yeah, but the attached end free end is a big deal. Because if you have one that's the attached end, means it's always going to find the center of that element. And
that.
if you even move it like above, it's going to go to the center of the top part of it. Or if you move it around, whatever, it's going to move and stay to that edge. If it's set up as free end and you change it from that attached end to free end, that arrowhead will stay where it is regardless of where you move it.
But the Brian will not.
No,
Oh.
I had to close the door because I have kids who just got home and they're screaming at each other. So,
Ah, well, if it helps, I didn't hear any of that. I don't.
well, that's good
Can anyone
because
else
they were
say?
screaming pretty loud. Now the doorbell's going off. Can't win. So this whole recording just needs to be edited, which is not going to happen. Yeah,
Uh,
in prior to Revit 25, I believe free end attached end used to be right here, like right here in the ribbon. They're trying to remove everything from the ribbon up to here, so I don't get why I'm not even seeing it up here in the contextual ribbon. Because it used to be down in the options bar, but not seeing that.
Because everything's consistent except when it's not. Oh, we have a follow-up on if there is a way to get the leader landing to be consistent in length. So I'm assuming the little elbow bit.
Yeah, I just had a client who changed their font, and I have all my tags loaded, and I'm like, cool, no big deal. But the font shifts down, and now all the
Mm,
arrows, all the leaders are doing this.
yeah, that's super annoying.
Yeah, so it's like grab the font, nudge it up a little bit. Nope, arrow didn't fix. Grab the font, nudge it down. Just keep nudging it up and down. It's like, oh my god. But
Yeah,
no, is there a way
but
to get leaders to be consistent in length, not without an add-in utility? Once you do one leader, they will snap. So if I put this one over here, I can grab any of those and Revit will snap them together. But just say, hey, I want to move all these, line them up, and get the leaders all consistent. I don't believe out of the box there's any way to do that.
yeah, it sure seems like that should be a type property. Like I want a 1/4 inch or whatever.
I have the ideate tool, and the ideate align tool will say, hey, align these and make the leaders align at 1/4 inch or something. So their add-in utility does that, but I don't believe you can do that out of the box. The other thing too that I don't know if a lot of people know, and I've just got to find two things that are the same. I'll just tag, I guess I'll tag two pieces of brick. One thing that you can do, and I added this in 24, is you can now have multiple leaders to the same object. So I can say add or remove host here. So I can say, hey, cool, I also wanted to tag, that's a repeating detail component, this brick, right? So now I can have two leaders. That's probably the one I am tagging. Left host. No, I was tagging that one brick. So I should be able to say, cool, add the additional, add or remove a host, grab this host down here. And now you can see, cool, it's got a different type property. But if it did have the same type property, it would come up saying, cool, that's what we're looking for. So that's a great one for me. I loved when they added that, being able to say, oh,
Yeah,
cool, add multiple hosts.
yeah, that was way better than trying to get
Two tags on top
text
of
right
each
on
other,
top
then
of
one
each
tag
other.
moves. And then it was even worse because if you didn't pin it and somebody moved the one element, then the tags that were on top of each other now one shifted and looked like you have a shadow. It's like, no.
Yeah, drop shadow for all your details.
Yeah. Cool. Very word 95. That's funny. All right, so what else we got?
Yeah. Oh, but I'm just looking at Bud saying there's invisible lines
Yeah, but the problem with the leader
attached to
arrowhead,
the leader.
unless they've
Yeah.
changed it, is even if I draw like a reference plane, I don't believe you can snap to it. So putting a reference line doesn't help. Like, so my detail box theoretically has this little line here, and that's just for me to kind of come in on the first one and say, cool, I'm close. And now all the other ones will snap to the one that's there, but it's not going to snap to a reference plane, a line, or anything. They just don't
Yeah.
snap to my knowledge. It's like, cool,
Yeah, I don't think so.
snap right there. They only snap to other arrowheads.
I think Bud is thinking the invisible line in the actual like keynote tag
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so
God, to
that
get the,
it
yes,
will stay centered.
to keep it centered as opposed to it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is super fun because then your little move arrows end up like somewhere clear down here. But at least it's centered, right?
So I'm very OCD that I actually have a property on it that can flex because I don't want the line always to be 10 inches long. So I
Oh yeah,
actually
yeah,
have
we have.
a parameter to the invisible line. And then the other thing that you can, I'm trying to think if I have one inside of there. But the other thing that I will do when I do have those invisible lines, I will add the parameters for the controlling the length. But when you
Mhm.
do draw those in there, make sure you're saying the line is also not visible, right? So if I come in here and I'm going to draw a line, I'm going to draw a line, it's going to be an invisible line. Two things I do. One, I make sure this invisible line is not a reference. I don't want somebody accidentally snapping to it. And then two, I turn off its visibility. So even though I'm trying to use this to get my, arrow or whatever to stay centered, if I load this back into the project, I do those two things just broke all my leader arrowheads. Ready? Um, this one's now the bottom. Look how great that is. But I make it invisible so
Sure.
A, you don't accidentally see it inside of here, but then I'll also go through and make it not a reference so you don't select it. Right. So right here, I'm doing this selection window up here. And if I get the selection window down here, even though my move grip is down here, I'm not, move it out here just to make sure I'm saying this correctly. Right. I'm not, well, I guess it is still selecting it. But it didn't select it. And I also make it not visible, so you hover over it, you don't see the damn line. But I thought also it didn't select this. I guess I'm lying. But yeah, so in those tags, usually I will go in and I will parameterize these and I will add a
Yeah.
link to them. Right. So I would literally go from here to here to here, hit my little equal button to keep it there, and then I will dimension from here to here to here. FYI, I grabbed this just so I wouldn't have to tab 400 times. That's my another little gem there. I don't want to have to go, I want to do a dimension, tab, 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 tab. There it is. Tab, 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 tab. If you get something parallel first and then remove that
That
something,
is a good point.
it'll stay where it was. Right. And then I'd give this
It knows which way you're going.
yes, it knows which way you're going. You've set the direction. Right. Then tab that little thing up saying, cool, now it's there. Let me make, the L 1 inch or whatever. And now when I load it in the project, it's there, it's parameterized. And then if I get some tag where it's like, oh man, this one tag has the words going 15 lines long because somebody put in a damn novel, then I could duplicate the tag, change the L to be whatever I wanted, and it would keep it centered. I can't not parameterize things. So it's really, really stupid to be like, yeah, I did that. Why? Well, because there might be that instance where you really want to keep that there.
No, ours is parameterized also, and I've made use of it multiple times in the last few weeks. So.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that gets me is that you have to have all the different lengths.
Yes. Length one,
I
length
hate
two,
that
length
bit.
three. I
Like,
am pretty sure
yeah.
those are in here. Oh, I don't think I did it in 25. I think I did it in 24. This just last week. I literally did, oh, type in quantity narrow, type quantity long.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I actually put in like, here's a note that's going to be 2 inches long. Here's one that's duplicate.
Yeah. For me, that's kind
We
of the
sh
thing
we
here
shouldn't have
too,
to do.
is I try to like, especially for like my detail components, I try to have it based on, that's why I have this layout. My tag is the same length as this space. So regardless of what you put in there, it's going to fit in the space. But yeah, it's very frustrating. Cool.
Yeah,
What's
Rick, I think we have like 8 different lengths in our tags.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's
Autodesk would
stupid
just let us
view.
parameterize the damn text box length. I would be happy.
Yes. Oh, let's see. So Michael's saying regarding tags with multiple lines, is there a way to control where the control grip is, or is there a way to control front and back of multiple tags? Multiple tags in a detail, I can get the control grip buried under other tags.
I'm assuming you're talking.
Uh,
Oh, this script. Well, yeah, it's the extents of
yeah,
your
the little
family.
drag thing.
So when you add that stupid 1 inch, if I come back here and say, cool, let me go. Oh, I didn't reload it. Let me go make that length parameter smaller, then that's where it's going to control it. But no, it looks, the control grip doesn't even go to the insertion point of the family. It goes to the bottom of the extent of what it sees within the project, right? So that grip's here now. And if I edit the type of this and say, no, 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 I only want that to be a 32nd of an inch, right now that grip's going to move up to the extents where it sees the text box. So if you have things hidden in your tags and turn them on and off like I do in quite a bit, no, that's just where it's going to be. Goes to the extent, it's not even at the insertion point either. It drives me crazy. My insertion point could literally be in the bottom left corner. Nope, it's the center bottom extent of what it sees in the family. So
I
nope,
think I
sorry
went
about
on
that.
a mini rant once about how we should be able to just say, instead of just an insertion point, say this is my leader point. This is where the leader should always come from. I don't care where else. Just right here. Don't move it.
Beth is like, go vote for this Revit idea. make the text lengths parameterizable. I would
Oh,
also
yeah,
like
but
them selectable. It's like even in a project, if
everybody go
I'm just
about
doing
that up.
text, like if I'm in a project and I put a text box in, I really would love to be able to snap or align or grab something other than the stupid move grip. Because I'm OCD. Even though I can align them to the left, align them to the right, damn it, when I put a piece of text in, I want this text a given distance from this line. I want it for my OCD. That's it.
They should know this about us.
And no tags, there's no bring to front, move to back, etc. type scenario. Like we said with everything else, it
Mm.
literally goes off of the order you put them in. So when you have like those move grips, you can sometimes say, hey, this one's on top of that one. So yeah, therefore, yeah, you sometimes can tell which way you tag them in the order. Because again, in Revit, they're still back to the thing I said before, there's still a display or creation order. All right. I just realized we're at the top of the hour, so we got to buzz through some questions.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. I feel bad since we kind of missed Michael's at the top. When a view is created as a callout, is there a way to change its orientation to match the parent when the parent view is reoriented to an angled scope box?
No.
Ooh.
No, so if I were to come into my views, what Michael's question is, if you can, I'm not going to use a scope box here, but if I go grab the rotate command, I can rotate the scope box. Um, I can rotate the crop region. Why did that not rotate? Oh, because I probably had copy turned on. God, this drives me crazy. I was literally going, man, why can't I spent like an hour the other day trying to figure out why this crop region wouldn't rotate, and I realized it was because I had the freaking copy turned on. So one, if you go to rotate a crop region or a scope box, you cannot have copy turned on. It will not work. I found that out. But so like, okay, cool. This has been rotated. Now I'm coming down here. I'm like, cool. I want to go do a call out. I want to do a call out of this area. The call out does not automatically rotate. It stays the direction it was. So no, to my knowledge, there is not a way to say, hey, align up with the parent view. Um, I guess I should clarify that too, because I believe when doing the call out, especially if it's another floor plan, if it's a detail, does that change? No, the detail still stays horizontal too. So yeah, no, my knowledge, you'd have to go rotate, know what the rotation value is and put that in there. And honestly, if I have a building that's got like a rotated wing, for me, I have what are called system views. And in my system views, I always put, hey, the building's rotation or this wing's rotation is 8 point blah, 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 blah. So I can just copy and paste that all the time when I need to rotate other things. But no, sorry, Michael. You're as well.
I'll best probably be quick. Is there any setting or talk of one for how far levels, grids, and reference planes extend past the crop by default? Oh, that would be a good one.
Yes, there is. And it's the default value for how far your annotation crop region is offset. But the problem is you just can't adjust it to my knowledge. If there was somebody smarter than I who could know, hey, how big does that annotated crop region snap outside of there? Um, that would be cool. But no, it goes to that default 1 inch value, scalable 1 inch, obviously, but it goes to that default 1 inch value. Um, I thought there was a way in the annotated crop you could even see the properties of it somewhere. Oh yeah, size crop. So when you look at like the annotated crop offset, it's that 1 inch value. I would love to be able to say, cool, go change this to be half of an inch and then do create similar or something and it would pick up on that. I haven't found a way to get that to be controlled, but it is that default 1 inch value. If you wanted to know what it was, that's what it is. And it's what that annotated crop region is defaulted to. I don't know if somebody, who is really smart, who knows the Revit API. When you grab this, you can say edit crop, not edit crop, sorry, size crop, and the size crop will give you the sizes. See, this is what blows me away. And somebody put up there in the comments earlier, I'd love to be able to change the size of a scope box. I can change and fix the size of my crop region. I can say, no, this needed to be 12 inches by 9 1/4 and give my crop regions a real freaking size. I can do that here, but why can't I do it with scope box?
Oh man, right? Top and bottom.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the default 1 inch. I don't know if there's a way to say Revit needs to change the default. inside of there. I'd love like an INI setting for that or something stupid. But yeah, it'd be really nice to have a project setting for default grid offset.
Yeah. Oh, it could be a type property of the grid, just in
Yeah,
case
the
you
type
needed
property
some.
of the grid. I mean, views have a structural setting for column symbolic offset. I'd love to see grid head offset. That would be amazing.
Mhm.
It'd still be per view, but I don't know. All
Yeah.
right, what are the last two we got?
Okay, so Caitlin's saying, asking if you can go over the proper steps again on how to get the image from the family in the correct orientation in the properties. Yes, my case
What I
front's
had
always showing the
found,
back, not the front.
yep. What I had found, and this is kind of what I was talking about here. So part of the reason I'm showing these all rendered is you can see that these rendered images did not matter on the directionality of the sketch lines. They all said, ooh, wait, I might have actually rotated that one. I'm not sure. But if I recall correctly, they all went the exact same direction. So the rendering image did not matter on the directionality. And with this image, it's going to be hard to tell because it's all the same image. But I believe what I had found, and this was quite a few years ago, that when I had a negative value in my family, oh, that's wrong family. Got to grab one over here. When I had a negative value for the extrusion end, or maybe it was the extrusion start, it might have been one of them is where it came into play. I think it was the extrusion end. Like, so for me, when I'm in a family, do I still have that new family that we started with reference lines created? No. But when I go create a family, oops, no, here, template, generic model. So like if I'm going to go into a family and I see people do this quite often, like, hey, cool, I'm going to go create an extrusion, right? And I've got this extrusion and I draw on a rectangle here and sweet, finish that extrusion. And when I go into a front view, like if I wanted that extrusion to come down from there, like, no, 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 I didn't want that extrusion to go up. Give this a name real quick. Just be cool. Oops, I click name, you liar. Right? Rather than just grabbing this extrusion and doing this and locking it, what I do is I change the work plane. So I edit the work plane of this extrusion to use that B value. Now you'll see that this still extended and went up. It's because the directionality of that reference plane. If I draw that reference plane this direction, it should have done it. It usually flips it. It did not. That's weird. But so it's directionality of the reference plane. So I would never, like if this was going down and I wanted it to go up, I don't ever just take the extrusion and give myself a negative offset. I would change the directionality. I don't know why this isn't working on this one. Maybe I need to be on the right. Yeah. So if I come into the right, do this, will it flip? It's not flipping. Interesting. Oh, it's because I
Oh, it's
originally drew.
mirroring, right?
No, it's because I originally drew it to the reference level. Let me grab this, and that's called ground plane. So let me go back to the reference level. Let me set the work plane to be ground plane. Draw an
I'm
extrusion.
just gonna jump in there. I feel like her question was more about the little image in the
Right. It's
property
because
browser.
that's where I'm
But
trying to go
like,
to. So
oh,
if I
okay,
come in
because you were
here and
talking
I,
about rendery stuff.
yes, because that's what she meant, the rendering image, to my knowledge. Did I misinterpret that?
Um, I'm not sure. I was thinking it was meaning in the family browser when you're placing it, the
Oh,
little the thumbnail, but maybe I'm wrong. I
I
don't
thought
know.
this was coming from when I said my TV screen was backwards, and I do not know why this is not. Um, there. But what I was going to say is the big thing, if it was
Okay.
my version,
Hmm.
I'll talk to Melissa's in a second. If it was my version, I just try to make sure these never have negative values. So I set them to an appropriate work plane, right? Like instead of having it up here and going, cool, let me stretch this down or let me stretch this and this down, I don't want negative values. Um, that I change it so I don't get negative values. I change the work planes, right? Change that from ground plane to be cool. Now you'll see, like, oh, okay, that extrusion starts at negative 14. I'm going to need to move this one up here, change this back to 0, and now I can align and lock this. That I have found for the rendering images when you get into there. You usually can change the directionality of the reference plane after you draw it, you change it. I'll have to see what's going on with this one. I do it all the time. But if you were talking in the project browser, how do I get my little views to be correct? That's not a project. How do I get the little views of the families to be correct in project browser when I look at them and be like, cool, what is this clock up here? This is 100% how you save partially how you save the family, but there's also a free tool out there called Pig, Preview Image Generator for Revit. There's a free and a paid version that you can actually say, go use the Northwest, the Northeast, etc. But it uses your default 3D view, I believe. Oh, you use your 3D view by default without tweaking it and manipulating it, as long as it's called view one. So I believe that's the case. Yeah, and CTC has a family preview tool as well. So there's a couple of them out there. If you're like, cool, but I really want to change the way that stuff renders, like I really wanted this image to go the other way within that family. I personally have a material I call my directional display. I just want to give this a material. It's called cherry. So let me go into my materials and grab that cherry material if it's in here. So what I will always do is with my material, I will go do a surface pattern. The surface pattern has to be a model pattern. Don't care what the model pattern is. I have one called directional display that is just 1 inch parallel lines. But if you just grab that pattern, you like tab select that hatch pattern and you hit rotate, you can actually, are you not letting me rotate? Tab, rotate. Oh, that's right, because I'm in 26 now. I want the angle up here to be, why can't I just say angle? I haven't played with this new rotate. Oh, I don't want to place it. Just be centered. That's fine. And then say I wanted this to be rotated at 45 degrees. If you do that, and then you can be even like tab, let me select this intersection, move it to the corner, whatever. If you do that and then load that back into the project, that will actually rotate your rendering image as well. So which one did I do up here? You can see that can happen. So like for me on my like door library and a lot of my things like that, when I go into like my leafs or whatever things like that, my leafs are never one giant extrusion. This one? No. Is it this one I do? Yeah. So like my leafs, I don't ever do as a giant extrusion. I do this is one extrusion, this is an extrusion, this is an extrusion, because I rotate all of those rendering hatch patterns. So if somebody does come back and say, I want that to be wood, I truly get the cross grain wood here, the vertical grain here. And again, my type A personality, I even rotate the hatch patterns on in grain, so it's going the correct way. So yes, if you're talking rendering images, the rotation can work as well, but I've never the mirrored out version of that. It's because you're on a negative side. I've never tried to mirror hatch pattern, so I don't know if that could be the case too. All right, what's the next one?
Oh, we've got a question on why you're not using the accelerated graphics tech preview.
Oh, because I'm not in a project big enough to determine it. I love this tool. I actually went to Inside the Factory with Melissa's coworker Aaron, and we were there, and he's like, "Dude, this is scary fast. Like it's just uncomfortable." He called it uncomfortably fast because you're in some of these projects, and it's just so fast. I was in an airport that in Revit 25, it would be like you'd go to spin the airport, the model, and you would wait 30 seconds. I was able to actually be in that actual project. I went to the steering wheel, I grabbed the look tool, and I was able to use the look and then the arrow keys, if you've never done this, and start walking through the airport. I was in this giant file that took, my arrow keys not working currently. My arrow keys are currently not working. They'll let me go sideways, but not up and down. But I was able to take this and do this through a camera view and start doing that and walk through this airport in Revit as long as that was turned on. It was insane. Like Aaron said, it was uncomfortably fast. Well, the reason I'm not using it here is I don't have a file big enough to make it worth my while. But yeah, I love that tool. I've been trying to tell everybody they need to upgrade to 26 just due to that tool. And 26.2 even updated it more. So it's like now not ignoring, I believe, the crop region. So I think it's actually still using crop region in 26.2. But yeah, cool. I see we got one last question from Joseph.
Yes. Okay, so Joseph has been working on building a Dynamo script to check the model location, project base, survey, and internal for the model that you're in, as well as the links to make sure they're in the right spot. What I found is that Revit will report it's at 000, except it's really at negative 4.6566128, etc. So at what point does rounding for locating projects not matter? I'm thinking maybe 5 or so decimals. I'm looking to coordinate 7 models all linked together. Doing it one by one and the links overlap is not easy.
The -4 is concerning. Um, I do laugh because in old versions of Revit, the default template, level 2 was not level. It was not horizontal. If you actually hosted something on, like did a dimension on a long building on from level 1 to level 2, it would be different from one end to the other. So it was very bizarre that level 2 was not level. A lot of people created their company templates from the old out of the box default template. Their level 2 is not level. It's real easy. Go delete level 2 and put it back in. 4 seems odd to me, but for me, you run into issues of computer rounding, and you can Google computer rounding, it'll start telling you all the differences. Like you said, anything after 5 decimals oftentimes can just be the way different programs round, right? So like even Revit, I can go out to 12 decimal places. I don't, because Revit will freak out on something you native create in Revit after 10 decimal places. I can display 12 and I can do 16 things and copy them 20 feet and I'll get 20.0001 and 1, and then the next one will be 0.9999999. So I have found in Revit, it's really only good out to 10 decimal places. That's as far as I go. But yeah, when you start looking at that, what you're talking about, and I did not see to the power of 10. Sorry, my bad. So you're probably not that big of a deal in something like that. But yeah, it's there. And it's funny because Revolution Design Tools, they exported a whole bunch of families out to like Excel just to get data one back. And I'm like, why is my floor to floor family a bizarre number? And then I was like, I have 6 of these and they're all different links, but they all go from level 1 to level 2. What is going on? And that's when I realized level 2 was not horizontal. So might be not sure, Joseph, what's going on because you're talking internal base point. On that, you're so far out in decimal places, you're probably doesn't matter. But yeah, you're probably going to see those things when you start getting into other programs and just the way computers round. Cool. I think that's it. Michael did ask by show of hands who's going to AU. I know I'm going. Desiree's going. Melissa, you're not going, correct?
Unless there's a major miracle.
I believe both Caitlins are going because I know one of them emailed me. Joseph's going. Jessica's going. The big thing I always tell people is if you are going and you see me or anybody else, come up and say hi. You see me there, you see Desiree there, you see Melissa there, or whatever, come up and say hi. We're all just people who like to talk to other geeks, and we're all at a geek conference, so let's all say hi. Like Brian Haley, one of our both mine and Desiree's old coworker, he's like, yeah, I'm feel at home when I'm at AU because my fellow geeks are there. So come up, say hi, ask questions. It's always nice to see.
Yes, I will miss everybody. Maybe I'll Zoom you, Brian, if you're at the booth,
Yeah, I'll
so
probably
that
hang
people
up.
can stop by and wave at me. It'll be the
I'll,
other end. I will be watching, and people
yeah,
will be
I'll
waving at
probably
me.
for most of you guys. I actually have teaching 2 labs, and I've got I'm lab assisting in 2 others. So with the exception of that, more than likely I'll be hanging out at the ID8 booth because as somebody posted and LinkedIn last week, you know, a lot of this crap is marketing that they do anymore. So I've just been so discouraged by sessions. I enjoy talking to people. I go hang out at the ID8 booth. They let me crash their plugged in internet, and I get faster internet to actually do work while I'm there. All righty.
Seems
Thanks,
pretty decent.
everyone. 15 minutes past the top of the hour. So I appreciate everyone who stuck around for sticking around. And hopefully we'll see you all next month. Talk to you later.
Bye.